Hey man, it usually doesn't start with anything obvious. No confession, no dramatic shift, just a subtle change in how she shows up around you. A slight difference in tone, a little more attention than before. And if you're paying attention, not hoping, not projecting, you begin to feel it before you can explain it. One of the earliest signs is priority, not intensity. She doesn't just talk to you when she's bored or needs something. She finds reasons to stay connected, even when nothing urgent is happening. Conversations don't feel transactional, they feel chosen, and that choice matters more than enthusiasm ever could. You'll notice it in how she reacts to your absence. When you pull back, not to test her, but because life gets busy, she doesn't disappear. She checks in. She reopens conversations, not anxiously, not dramatically, but deliberately. Interest that survives distance is rarely platonic. There's also a shift in curiosity. She starts asking questions that go beyond surface-level updates, not interviews, but genuine attempts to understand how you think, what motivates you, what your world looks like when no one's watching. Friendship listens, attraction studies, her body language changes before her words ever do. She angles herself toward you, maintains eye contact a little longer than necessary, finds reasons to sit closer than she needs to. These aren't conscious moves, they're instinctive, and instinct rarely lies. Another sign shows up in how she shares herself. She opens up emotionally, but not in a way that turns you into a therapist. She shares selectively. Vulnerability paired with restraint is different from emotional dumping. It signals trust mixed with attraction. You'll also notice how she reacts when other women enter the picture. Not jealousy in the dramatic sense, but awareness, subtle changes in tone, questions framed casually that aren't actually casual. When interest exists, competition registers, even if it's never acknowledged openly. She begins remembering small details you didn't think mattered, things you mentioned once in passing. Preferences, opinions, stories. That level of attention isn't accidental, it's investment. People remember what they're emotionally tracking. There's a difference in how she laughs with you. It's not just politeness or friendliness, it's ease, comfort mixed with excitement. The kind of laughter that happens when someone feels safe but stimulated at the same time. And perhaps the clearest sign of all is this: she creates space for things to grow. She doesn't lock you into the friend role with rigid boundaries. She leaves room, ambiguity, possibility, because on some level, she's already imagining what could happen if things shifted. As time passes, you start noticing how naturally she integrates herself into your rhythm. She doesn't force her way in, but she's consistently there, aware of your schedule, mindful of your energy, adjusting without being asked. That kind of attentiveness isn't random, it's subtle alignment. She's not just reacting to you, she's synchronizing with you. You'll also feel a shift in how she responds to your emotions. When you're excited, she mirrors it. When you're quieter than usual, she senses it without needing an explanation. This isn't emotional dependence, it's attunement. She's tuned in, not because she has to be, but because she wants to be. There's a noticeable difference in how she treats your opinions compared to others. She values what you think, not performatively, not to flatter you, but with real consideration. Your perspective carries weight. She pauses before responding. She remembers, and that respect is often the bridge between friendship and attraction. You may also notice that she becomes more expressive around you, more animated, more playful, more present. Her energy shifts, not dramatically, but noticeably. She shows sides of herself that don't come out as easily with others. Comfort creates safety, but attraction adds spark to that safety. Another quiet indicator is how she includes you in future-oriented conversations. Not commitments, not plans, but references. Casual mentions of things that haven't happened yet, where your presence is assumed rather than requested. That assumption reveals how she already places you in her mental landscape. You'll feel it when she seeks your validation in small, understated ways. Not approval, but acknowledgement. A glance after she says something, a pause, waiting for your reaction. These moments are brief, almost invisible, but they reveal emotional orientation. She cares how you see her. She also begins to treat your attention differently than others. When you're present, she's more focused. When you're distracted, she notices. And when you give her space, she doesn't rush to fill it, but she doesn't let it grow unchecked either. That balance is rarely accidental. There's often a moment where the dynamic feels slightly charged, not overtly romantic, not awkward, just different. Conversations linger longer than necessary. Goodbyes stretch a bit. Silences feel comfortable instead of empty. These moments don't need interpretation. They need awareness. What many men miss is that attraction often shows up as consistency, not intensity. She doesn't overwhelm you, she doesn't chase, she simply stays present in a way that feels intentional, and intention, sustained over time, is one of the clearest signals there is. By this stage, it's no longer about guessing, it's about noticing, not forcing meaning, not jumping to conclusions, but recognizing when behavior, attention, and emotional presence start pointing in the same direction. When they do, it's rarely just friendship anymore. At this point, the dynamic has its own quiet gravity. You're no longer wondering if something is different, you're sensing that it already is. Conversations feel less casual and more intentional, even when the topics are simple. There's an underlying awareness in how she engages with you, like she's present on more than one level at the same time. Friendship exists on the surface, but something else is running underneath it, steady and unresolved. You'll notice how she responds when you assert yourself, not aggressively, but confidently. When you make decisions without seeking approval, when you set boundaries naturally, her respect doesn't drop, it deepens. Attraction grows when a woman feels she's interacting with someone grounded, not someone adapting himself to be liked. There's also a shift in how she handles emotional moments with you. She doesn't just vent and move on, she pauses, she checks how you're taking things in, she becomes aware of the space between you, careful not to push too far or pull too close. That awareness is rarely present in purely platonic connections. Time around you begins to feel different for her. She lingers without needing a reason. She stretches moments that could easily end, not because she's unsure where things are going, but because she doesn't want the feeling to stop. People don't linger in spaces they don't care about emotionally. You might also notice that she becomes more responsive to subtle shifts in your energy. When you're more reserved, she leans in slightly. When you're playful, she mirrors it. This isn't mimicry, it's resonance. Her emotional state starts syncing with yours, which is one of the strongest precursors to attraction. Another sign shows up in how she handles vulnerability around you. She doesn't overshare, but when she does open up, it feels measured and intentional. She chooses what to reveal. That selectivity matters. It means she's not just talking, she's trusting. She also begins framing interactions in a way that preserves possibility. She avoids language that shuts things down or labels you too firmly as just a friend. Instead, she keeps things open-ended, fluid. That openness isn't confusion, it's allowance. You'll feel it when she becomes more attentive to how you respond to her presence. She notices when you're engaged, she notices when you pull back, and while she doesn't panic, she adjusts. That adjustment signals emotional investment, not casual familiarity. Attraction often reveals itself through restraint. She doesn't rush things, she doesn't push boundaries prematurely. She allows tension to exist without resolving it immediately. That patience shows she values the connection enough to let it unfold naturally. By now, the signs aren't loud, but they're aligned. Her attention, behavior, and emotional presence are moving in the same direction. And when alignment shows up consistently, it stops being coincidence. It becomes intention, waiting for the right moment to surface. What matters most at this stage isn't what you say or do, it's what you don't rush to clarify. The dynamic needs space to breathe. When attraction is forming, it's fragile in a quiet way. Not weak, just unspoken. And trying to define it too early can collapse the tension that's allowing it to grow in the first place. You'll notice that she becomes more aware of how you perceive her. Not in an insecure way, but in a curious one. She pays attention to your reactions, the way you respond to her stories, the way you look at her when she speaks. She's subtly gauging whether the connection she feels is mutual without putting herself fully at risk. There's often a moment where the interaction slows down instead of accelerating. Less chatter, more pauses, more eye contact. The conversation doesn't need constant momentum because presence has replaced novelty. That slowing isn't stagnation, it's depth forming. She may begin testing emotional safety without realizing it. Small disagreements, light teasing, slight vulnerability. Not to provoke, but to observe how you handle tension. Whether you stay grounded or become reactive, attraction deepens when she feels she can be herself without destabilizing you. You'll feel a difference in how she shares space with you. Silence doesn't feel awkward, it feels charged, comfortable, almost intentional. These are the moments where attraction speaks loudest, because nothing needs to be said for it to be felt. Another shift happens in how she balances closeness and independence. She doesn't cling, but she doesn't disappear either. She allows distance without letting the connection dissolve. That balance shows emotional maturity and interest coexisting, which is rare and meaningful. What's important here is restraint on your end. Not pulling away, not leaning forward, just staying steady. When you remain consistent without pushing for answers, you allow her to move at her own pace toward clarity. And clarity chosen freely carries far more weight than clarity forced. She may begin revealing more personal layers, not dramatically but selectively. Opinions she doesn't share with everyone, feelings she normally keeps guarded. This kind of openness isn't accidental, it's trust growing alongside attraction. You'll also sense that she becomes more intentional about time. Not just fitting you in, but creating space, adjusting plans, making room. These choices signal value far more clearly than words ever could. By now, the connection has shifted from possibility to presence. Nothing has been declared, yet everything feels different. And when attraction reaches this point, the question is no longer whether she sees you as more than a friend. It's whether you can continue holding the space without rushing the outcome. At this point, what strengthens the connection most is your ability to remain grounded while allowing uncertainty to exist. You're not avoiding clarity. You're trusting that it will surface on its own. That patience creates safety. It signals that you're not trying to extract something from her, but that you're comfortable letting things develop at their natural pace. She senses this comfort immediately. Most people rush to define things because they're afraid of losing momentum. When you don't, it stands out. It tells her you're not operating from fear or scarcity, and nothing builds attraction faster than someone who isn't afraid of silence or space. There's also a subtle shift in how she presents herself around you. She's more intentional, more aware, not because she's performing, but because she cares how she shows up in your presence. That awareness doesn't appear in purely platonic dynamics. It's the sign of emotional investment taking shape. You may notice her testing proximity, not physically at first, but emotionally. She shares something meaningful and waits. She expresses a thought and watches how you hold it. These moments aren't random. They're quiet checks to see if stepping closer feels safe. What keeps this stage alive is your consistency. Not constant availability, but emotional steadiness. You respond without urgency. You stay engaged without overreaching. That balance tells her she can lean in without worrying that the dynamic will suddenly tip or demand more than she's ready to give. You'll feel how conversations deepen without needing to escalate. Topics drift naturally from surface level to personal, not because you push them there, but because comfort allows them to go. That progression feels organic. An organic movement is what separates real attraction from momentary curiosity. There's often a moment where she becomes slightly more vulnerable than usual. Not dramatically, but enough to notice. She's opening a door without stepping fully through it. How you respond matters less than how you hold that moment. Calm presence builds more trust than reassurance ever could. Time with you begins to feel restorative rather than stimulating. She leaves interactions feeling lighter, clearer, more grounded. That emotional after effect is powerful. People gravitate towards spaces where they feel regulated, not just entertained. What's forming now is recognition, not infatuation, not excitement alone. Recognition of someone who feels familiar in the right way, someone who doesn't disrupt her internal balance but enhances it. And recognition, once felt, rarely fades quietly. By this stage, the connection doesn't need interpretation, it needs care. Care through steadiness, through presence, through letting attraction finish forming without interference. Because when interest grows naturally, without force or fear, it reveals itself clearly, without needing to be named too early. This is the stage where attraction quietly asks a question, not out loud, but internally. Does this feel stable enough to step into? She isn't looking for grand gestures or dramatic moves. She's paying attention to how consistently you show up as yourself, whether your energy today matches your energy yesterday, whether being around you feels predictable in the best way. You'll notice that she becomes more comfortable letting moments linger. She doesn't rush to fill silence. She doesn't rush to leave. Time stretches when interest is present because there's no internal pressure to escape the moment. That ease is a strong signal, one that often goes unnoticed by men who are waiting for something louder. There's also a noticeable shift in how she responds to your independence. When you prioritize your life, your work, your direction, she doesn't pull away, she leans in. Attraction strengthens when she sees that connection with her adds to your life, but doesn't consume it. That balance makes you feel solid, not conditional. She may start sharing small personal details unprompted, not deep confessions, but pieces of her inner world that aren't shared widely. These moments aren't random, they're offerings, ways of testing whether being closer feels safe without explicitly crossing a line. At this point, your reactions matter more than your actions. If you remain calm, present, and unhurried, the space continues to open. If you rush to define, label, or secure, the space tightens. Attraction grows where there's freedom to choose, not pressure to decide. You'll feel a subtle increase in emotional warmth, more softness in her voice, more attention in her responses, more presence when you're together. These changes don't happen overnight, they accumulate. And accumulation is far more reliable than sudden intensity. There's often a moment when she starts aligning plans around you, not canceling her life, but weaving you into it, adjusting timing, creating overlap. These choices speak quietly, but clearly. People don't rearrange their lives for those they see as fixed in one category. What's important here is that you don't try to accelerate the moment. Let attraction finish forming. Let her arrive at clarity on her own terms. The strongest connections are chosen, not persuaded. If things continue unfolding smoothly, the shift becomes unmistakable. The way she looks at you changes. The way she listens changes. The way she holds space for you changes. Nothing is said, but everything is communicated. By now, it's no longer about signs, it's about readiness. When interest reaches this point, it doesn't need confirmation, it needs leadership through calm presence. And if you stay grounded here, attraction either becomes real naturally or reveals that it was never meant to go further without confusion. There's a moment when the energy between you stops feeling ambiguous, not because something dramatic happens, but because the uncertainty fades. The connection settles into a quiet confidence, as if both of you recognize what's forming without needing to acknowledge it out loud. She becomes more present in small moments. When you speak, she listens fully. When you pause, she doesn't rush to fill the space. That kind of attention isn't accidental, it's intentional presence, and presence is one of the clearest expressions of interest. You'll notice that she begins responding emotionally before responding verbally, a change in expression, a softness in tone, a warmth that wasn't there before. These reactions happen faster than thought, which is why they're reliable. What's important now is that you don't shift your behavior suddenly. Attraction strengthens when continuity exists. If you stay steady, same pace, same energy, you allow trust to deepen naturally, instead of triggering uncertainty. She may start revealing how she feels indirectly, through stories, through hypotheticals, through subtle comments that hint rather than declare. These are invitations, not tests. She's offering insight without placing herself fully on the line. You'll feel a growing sense of ease between you. Not excitement that spikes and crashes, but comfort that expands. The connection starts to feel less like something happening and more like something being. This is where many men make the mistake of overcorrecting, becoming overly expressive, overly available, overly eager. But attraction at this stage thrives on steadiness, not escalation. Calm confidence keeps the door open. She notices how you handle this transition. Whether you remain grounded or become reactive, whether you lead with clarity or anxiety, her perception adjusts accordingly, often without conscious awareness. If you continue holding the space without rushing the outcome, the connection reaches a natural tipping point. What was once implied becomes felt clearly on both sides. No confusion, no guessing. And when that moment arrives, it doesn't need explanation. The shift speaks for itself. Attraction, when allowed to mature without pressure, announces its presence quietly but unmistakably. Once the shift becomes undeniable, what matters most is how little you change. Attraction at this point isn't fragile, but it is sensitive to imbalance. Staying composed signals that you were never performing to get here, you were simply being yourself the entire time. She notices this restraint immediately. It reassures her that the connection isn't dependent on momentum or novelty, that what's forming isn't temporary excitement, but something that can hold its shape, even when things slow down. You'll feel the dynamic stabilize, less uncertainty, less guessing. The tension doesn't disappear, it softens into clarity. The energy becomes warmer, steadier, more grounded. That's how you know it's real, rather than imagined. She may become more open about her presence in your life, not by declaring feelings, but by making you visible, introducing you naturally, referencing you openly, letting others see the connection without trying to define it prematurely. What's happening here is alignment, Emotional, mental, and behavioral signals are finally pointing in the same direction. When alignment appears, effort drops. Things don't feel heavy or forced, they simply move. You'll also notice how conflict, or potential conflict, is handled differently now. Small disagreements don't threaten the bond. They're navigated calmly. Respect remains intact. That's a powerful sign that the connection has depth. Attraction at this stage isn't loud. It doesn't demand reassurance or constant validation. It exists quietly, confidently, without needing to prove itself, and quiet confidence tends to last longer than anything built on intensity alone. She feels safe leaning in, because you haven't collapsed into expectation. You've allowed her to arrive here freely, and freedom is what makes interest stick, rather than fade. What started as subtle shifts has now turned into mutual awareness, not spoken yet, but shared. Both of you know where things are heading without rushing the arrival. And that's the difference between attraction that fades and attraction that grows. One is chaste, the other is allowed. What you allowed to form has now taken its own shape, steady, clear, and real. At this point, the connection no longer feels like something you're reading into, it feels lived in. There's a quiet familiarity that has settled between you. Not the kind that dulls attraction, but the kind that deepens it. She's comfortable enough to relax, yet present enough to stay engaged. That balance doesn't happen accidentally. It happens when interest has moved past curiosity and into recognition. She begins responding to you less as a category in her life and more as a constant, not something she evaluates each time, but something she intuitively accounts for. Your presence starts influencing her decisions in small, natural ways, not because she feels obligated, but because you're already part of her internal landscape. There's also a noticeable shift in emotional honesty. She doesn't guard her reactions as carefully. She allows moments of softness to show. The kind of softness that only appears when someone feels secure enough to stop managing the impression they're making. That's not friendliness, it's emotional trust, merging with attraction. You'll feel how the dynamic stops oscillating. No push-pull, no guessing games, no emotional spikes followed by distance. Things settle into a steady rhythm, and that rhythm feels sustainable. When attraction reaches this stage, it no longer feeds on uncertainty, it feeds on consistency. She becomes more relaxed around you physically and emotionally. Movements slow, conversations deepen without effort. There's less need to impress and more willingness to simply be. This ease is often misunderstood, but it's one of the strongest indicators that interest has taken root. You may notice that she no longer scans the room the same way when you're around. Her attention isn't searching outward, it's anchored. That anchoring doesn't mean possession or dependence, it means focus, and focused attention is one of the clearest expressions of attraction. At this stage, words matter less than presence. What's felt between you carries more weight than anything said explicitly. There's a mutual awareness that the connection has crossed the line quietly, without needing permission or announcement. What keeps everything intact now is restraint, paired with confidence. You don't rush to define things, and she doesn't need you to. The lack of urgency becomes reassuring. It tells her that what's forming doesn't need protection, it's stable on its own. This is where attraction becomes choice rather than reaction. She isn't responding to novelty or intensity anymore. She's choosing consistency, choosing how she feels when she's with you, and that choice, once made internally, tends to be firm. By now, the connection isn't hanging in the air, it's grounded. It doesn't ask for validation, it doesn't require explanation, it simply exists, shaped by time, presence, and calm leadership. And when attraction reaches this place, it's no longer a question of if she sees you as more than a friend, it's a matter of how naturally things will move forward from here. What matters now is not acceleration, but alignment. When something real has formed, it doesn't need to be pushed forward, it needs to be held through consistency, through presence, through remaining the same grounded man she became drawn to in the first place. This is where many connections quietly succeed or fail, not because of what's done wrong, but because of what's done too fast. She's paying close attention here, even if she doesn't consciously realize it, not to your words, but to your rhythm, whether you suddenly change your pace, whether you seek reassurance that was never required before, whether your confidence stays internal instead of turning into expectation. Attraction that reaches this stage wants to feel chosen, not claimed. You'll notice how naturally closeness continues to grow when nothing is forced. Moments extend, conversations deepen, Physical proximity becomes easier, more organic, less charged with uncertainty. What once felt delicate now feels solid because it wasn't rushed into existence. There's a quiet trust forming here. Trust that you won't collapse the dynamic by demanding clarity too soon. Trust that you're comfortable letting things unfold. And that trust creates safety. The kind of safety where attraction doesn't retreat, but settles in. She begins responding less from instinct and more from intention. Her presence becomes deliberate. Her attention stays steady. And while nothing may have been labeled yet, the direction feels clear. When interest reaches this point, it no longer wavers, it waits. What keeps everything intact is your ability to lead without pressure. You don't need to announce anything. You don't need to rush the moment. You simply remain grounded, allowing the connection to continue revealing itself naturally. There's often a moment of quiet confirmation, not spoken but felt, a look held a little longer, a pause that says more than words ever could. This is where attraction finishes forming, not with fireworks but with certainty. From here, things don't need to change dramatically. They evolve. Slowly, cleanly, without confusion. And because nothing was forced, nothing feels fragile. That's the difference between attraction that fades and attraction that lasts. One is built on momentum, the other is built on presence. And presence doesn't disappear when excitement settles, it deepens. So when she likes you as more than a friend, it doesn't show up as chaos or urgency. It shows up as calm interest, steady attention, and a willingness to let something real take shape. And if you stay grounded there, you won't need to wonder where you stand. You'll feel it.